My wife cheated on me with her boss, and now she's claiming half of our $350, $0 savings, even though she secretly sold our family home behind my back for $600, $0, while I was away for a week on business. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. It all kicked off when I came home unexpectedly early from a week-long business trip. I had this gut feeling something was wrong, but I didn't have any proof, just a vague sense of unease. You know how it is, right? When your instincts tell you something off, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Well, that's where I was. My wife had been acting weird for a while. She'd be short with me over little things, avoiding eye contact, and sometimes she'd get this defensive look when I'd ask about her day. I brushed it off at first, told myself she was stressed or tired. We'd been married for 7 years, and honestly, I'd always trusted her. But lately, I'd noticed her phone was always locked, and she'd be quick to hide it whenever I walked into the room. Small things, but enough to make me suspicious. Then the night before I left for that trip, she was unusually cold and dismissive. When I tried to talk to her about it, she snapped at me, said I was overreacting. That's when I started paying closer attention. I remember sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone while she was in the kitchen. I saw a text message from someone named Alex, which I thought was just a friend but the tone was too intimate and the timing was suspicious. She'd been texting him late at night, even when I was around. I didn't confront her then because I didn't want to start a fight right before I left. I thought I'd have the whole week to figure things out, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something big. And I was right. While I was away, I kept checking her social media, her messages, even her bank accounts, just to get a clearer picture. That's when I stumbled upon something that hit me like a punch to the gut. I saw a transaction, an enormous deposit that I didn't recognize. It was from a real estate agency, and the amount was way more than our usual savings. My heart sank. I immediately pulled up our joint bank account, and there it was, our family home, sold behind my back for $600, $0. I couldn't believe it. We never discussed selling the house, and I definitely didn't give her permission to do so. That was the moment I knew everything had changed. All the little lies, the secretive behavior, the late-night texts, it was all connected. Had been cheating on me with her boss, James. I found out she'd been sleeping with him for months, probably using the house as some kind of hiding place for their affair. The worst part, she sold the house while I was away, like I wasn't even part of the decision. I felt sick, betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. I couldn't believe she'd do something so reckless and selfish. The house was supposed to be our future, our investment. Now she's claiming she's entitled to half of our savings, around $175, $0, because she argues she's entitled to her share, even though she secretly sold the house behind my back. She's lying through her teeth, saying she was just taking care of things, that I was absent and inattentive, and that I don't deserve anything because I was gone for a week. I mean, what kind of logic is that? She's throwing around words like entitlement and divorce, but I see through her bullshit. I remember sitting in my hotel room, staring at the phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. My mind was racing, trying to process how I could missed all these signs. How someone I trusted so completely could betray me like this. The anger is still raw, but underneath that, there's this deep sadness. I lost my wife, my partner, the person I thought was my best friend. I can't stop thinking about the times we shared, the plans we made, and how all of that is now shattered. I don't know what's worse, the fact that she cheated on me, or that she did it so brazenly while I was away and then lied about the house sale. It's like she thought she could get away with everything. But I'm not going to let her get away with it. I've started planning my next move, and I know I need to be smart. This isn't just about the money, this is about respect, trust, and justice. I need to figure out how to get what's rightfully mine and make sure she doesn't walk all over me. Honestly, I feel broken, but I also feel a strange sense of clarity. I see now who she really is, selfish, manipulative, and willing to lie about anything to save herself. I've never been so betrayed, and it's going to take some time to heal from this. But one thing, for sure, I'm not going to let her take everything without a fight. After I found out about the house sale and her affair, everything changed in an instant. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare, except I couldn't wake up. My mind kept spinning, trying to piece together how I missed all the signs, how she managed to keep this secret from me for so long. I'd always thought was ambitious and responsible, but now I saw her as someone who was willing to lie, cheat, and betray everything we built together. It was a gut punch that left me reeling. The first thing I did was confront her. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I messaged her late that night telling her I knew about the sale, about the affair, about everything. Her reaction was instant, defensive, bitchy, and full of lies. She everything at first claimed I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. She said the money from the house was for us, that she sold it because we needed cash, and that I was overreacting. She even threw in some tears, trying to look innocent, like I was the one losing my mind. But I wasn't buying it. I knew her better than that. I told her I had proof, that I saw the bank transaction and that I knew about her affair with James. That's when she exploded. She called me crazy, said I was accusing her of every evil under the sun, and accused me of being absent and neglectful, which was laughable. I was the one working long hours, traveling for business, trying to keep everything afloat. Meanwhile, she was sneaking around with her boss and secretly selling the house. The audacity of her lies made me furious. She kept insisting she was doing what was best, that she was protecting us, even though I knew better. She claimed she was just taking care of things because I was gone, but I saw right through her bullshit. She wanted to keep the house sale a secret, keep her affair hidden, and somehow spin it all into her favor. That's when I realized she was a master manipulator. She'd lied so much that I didn't even know what was real anymore. The more I pressed her, the more her lies unraveled. She admitted to being with James but said it was just sex, that it didn't mean anything, that she was confused. Yeah, right. You don't sell a house worth $600, $0, and then tell me it's just taking care of things. That's a lie that stinks to high heaven. She also claimed that I was never around, that I was too busy with work, and that she deserved more because she'd sacrificed so much. She's good at twisting the knife, making me feel guilty for catching her. This whole confrontation was like watching a bad movie unfold in real time. I felt everything: anger, betrayal, heartbreak, and a sense of helplessness. I wanted to lash out, scream at her, call her all the nasty names I was feeling inside. But I kept my cool, knowing that if I lost control, I'd give her exactly what she wanted. Instead, I calmly told her I was done playing her game, that I needed time to think, and that I was going to consult a lawyer about the house and the money. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My mind kept racing over every detail. The betrayal was so deep I couldn't even cry anymore. I just felt numb. How could someone I loved and trusted do this to me? The woman I married, the mother of my children, had been lying and cheating behind my back for months. And she'd sold our home without telling me. For what? To fund her affair, to line her pockets. I couldn't understand her logic. All I knew was that I couldn't stay silent, and I needed to fight for what's mine. The next morning I started looking into everything: bank statements, the sale documents, her phone, her emails. I wanted to be sure I had all the facts before making any moves. I also reached out to a lawyer to understand my rights. Her claim that I was absent and that I owed her half of our savings was ridiculous. We had a joint account, sure, but she'd secretly drained it, probably to hide her affair and the house sale. I couldn't believe she'd gone so far behind my back. At the same time, I couldn't help feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and sadness because it meant losing the woman I thought I knew. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, how I missed all the warning signs. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about me. It was about her choices, her betrayal, her greed. I decided I wouldn't let her take everything without a fight. I was going to get the house, the money, and whatever else was legally mine. She might be good at lying, but I was determined to be smarter. I'd work with my lawyer, gather all the evidence, and make sure she couldn't manipulate her way out of this. For now, I just needed to keep my head clear and plan my next steps. I knew this was only the beginning of a long battle, but I was ready. I had to be. The days that followed were a whirlwind. I stayed up nights poring over every detail I could find: bank statements, emails, text messages, anything that could give me leverage. The more I dug, the clearer it became that was not just cheating on me. She was actively trying to erase me from our life together. Selling the house behind my back was the biggest shock, but it was also just the tip of the iceberg. She'd been planning this for a while, I could tell. I reached out to a lawyer, a no-nonsense guy named Mark who specialized in divorce and property disputes. From the start, he told me that I had a strong case. The house sale was done without my consent, and it was illegal to sell our family home without both signatures. Plus, the fact that she was secretly selling assets and hiding money meant I could pursue damages and even ask for a court order to freeze her accounts. The more I spoke with him, the more I felt a little hope, like I wasn't just a victim, but I actually had some power to fight back. Meanwhile, kept insisting that she was doing what was best, that I was never around, and that I owed her something because she sacrificed so much. She threw around words like entitlement and divorce, trying to intimidate me into backing down. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I saw her for what she was, a liar who'd betrayed everything we built, and now she was trying to spin it into some kind of victim story. One afternoon, she showed up at my apartment unexpectedly. Her eyes were red, her makeup was smudged, and she looked like she'd been crying all night. She tried to act innocent, saying she just wanted to talk, but I wasn't stupid. I told her to leave. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I told her I knew about the sale, the affair, everything. That I was going to take her to court, and she wasn't going to walk all over me. She snapped back, calling me heartless and paranoid, saying I was ruining everything because I couldn't forgive her. She claimed she was sorry, that she loved me, that she was just confused. Yeah, right, I could see through her crocodile tears. This wasn't about love, it was about greed and betrayal. She'd been playing a long game and I was just catching up. The biggest blow came when I found out she'd been lying about her affair with James. Turns out, they'd been together for over 6 months. She'd been sneaking around, meeting him after hours, hiding her phone, and even lying about where she was. I found texts and emails that confirmed everything. It made me feel sick, like I'd been living with a stranger all along. She'd been pretending to be this perfect wife, but behind my back she was sleeping with her boss and secretly selling our house. The emotional toll was intense. I was angry, yes, but also deeply hurt. I kept asking myself how I could have missed all the signs. Did I not pay enough attention? Was I just too busy with work to see what was happening? The betrayal cut deep, and I felt like I was losing my mind. I trusted her more than anyone, and now she was just gone, completely unrecognizable. Despite the pain, I knew I had to stay strong. I could let her manipulate me into giving up what's rightfully mine. I told her I was going to fight for the house, for the savings, and for my dignity. I kept reminding myself that I deserved better, deserved someone who wasn't a liar and a thief. I also started documenting everything: screenshots, bank records, emails, so I'd have solid evidence when I took her to court. I also began talking to friends and family, trying to process everything out loud. Some told me to just walk away, to cut my losses and start over. Others said to fight hard to make sure she pays for what she did. I wasn't sure what the right move was yet, but I knew I wouldn't let her walk away with everything. Not without a fight. Deep down, I felt a mixture of despair and resolve. This was the lowest point of my life, but I knew I had to keep going. I couldn't let her win. I had to stand up for myself, for what we had, and for the truth. The house, the savings, the betrayal, they all added up to one thing: I wasn't going down without a fight, and I was just getting started. The next step was to get serious about legal action. I met with Mark again, and he laid out the options clearly. The sale of the house without my consent was a clear violation of our joint ownership. She essentially stole our property. Plus, the fact that she'd been hiding money and lying about her affair gave us enough grounds to pursue a legal claim for damages, and possibly even for restitution of the house or its equivalent value. We filed for an emergency court order to freeze her bank accounts and any assets she might have hidden. I knew she'd try to move money around or hide what she had left, so I had to act fast. Meanwhile, I also started compiling all the evidence I'd gathered: The email exchanges, text messages, bank statements, the sale documents. It was a mountain of proof, but I knew it was necessary. I wanted the court to see how deeply she'd betrayed me. Her reaction to the legal move was predictably awful. She stormed into my apartment one evening, furious, yelling that I was ruining her life, that I was just trying to punish her, and that I had no right to interfere. She called me paranoid, jealous, and said I was overreacting. She even accused me of being controlling, which made me laugh bitterly. She'd been controlling the whole time, controlling the house, the money, her lies, and now she was playing the victim. I told her to leave, that I'd had enough of her manipulations. I said she'd crossed the line, that I was going to make sure she paid for what she'd done. She looked at me with this icy glare and said she'd fight me all the way, that she'd take everything I have. That was the first time I realized how far she was willing to go. She wasn't just going to admit fault, she was prepared to escalate. Over the next few days, I stayed focused. I kept my distance, knowing that any emotional reaction might play into her hands. I also reached out to a forensic accountant to help track any hidden assets or offshore accounts she might have. The more I learned, the more I realized she'd been planning this for a while. She transferred some money into accounts I didn't even know about, possibly to hide her assets from. The court. The court date was set for 2 weeks later. I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. I knew I had the evidence, but I also knew was a manipulator. She'd probably try to spin everything in her favor, lie her way out of trouble, and make me look like the bad guy. I had to be ready for that. I also started talking to a therapist to help me handle the emotional toll. I was angry, betrayed, and hurt, but I knew I couldn't let those feelings cloud my judgment. Meanwhile, started making her own moves. She hired her own lawyer, and I could tell the battle lines were being drawn. She kept insisting she deserved half of everything, even though she'd secretly sold the house and lied about her affair. She claimed I'd been absent and neglectful, trying to turn the story around to make herself look like the victim. But I wasn't buying it. I had all the proof: her lies, her betrayal, her secret sales. One night, I found myself staring at the ceiling, wondering how it all came to this. I never imagined I'd be in a situation where I'd have to fight my own wife in court over our marriage and assets. It felt surreal. I kept asking myself what I could have done differently, but deep down, I knew this wasn't my fault. She made her choices, and now I had to deal with the consequences. I also realized something important. I couldn't keep living in the past. I had to focus on moving forward, no matter how painful that was. I started making plans to get my own place, to rebuild my life. I also became more cautious about who I trusted. The woman I thought I knew turned out to be someone completely different, selfish, manipulative, and willing to lie and cheat to get what she wanted. That's a hard lesson, but one I had to learn the hard way. Through all of this, I kept reminding myself that I deserved better. I deserved honesty, respect, and someone who wouldn't betray me. I wasn't going to let her take everything without a fight. I was determined to stand my ground, to protect what was mine, and to find some sense of justice. This was only the beginning of a long road, but I was ready for it. I had no choice but to be. The court date finally arrived, and I was a nervous wreck, but I knew I had to be strong. Sitting there across from his lawyer, I felt a strange sense of calm, like I was finally taking control of the situation after feeling helpless for so long. Mark laid out our case clearly: the illegal sale of our house, her secret bank transfers, the affair, and the lies she'd told along the way. I handed over all the evidence I had collected: screenshots, emails, bank statements, and watched as the judge scrutinized everything. Looked frantic, trying to spin her own story, claiming she was just trying to do what was best for the family, that I was absent and neglectful, and that she deserved her fair share because she sacrificed so much. She even had the audacity to cry, pretending she was the victim. But the judge wasn't buying it. The evidence was overwhelming. The sale of the house was unauthorized, and her attempts to manipulate the court were transparent. As the hearing progressed, I felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Relief because I knew I had a solid case. Frustration because I was still furious at how she'd betrayed me, and I knew this wasn't over yet. The judge ordered a freeze on all her assets, and she was required to provide a full accounting of her finances. The court also set a hearing to determine damages, including the value of the house and any hidden assets. During the break, approached me, her face twisted with anger. She said I was trying to ruin her life, that I was being unfair, and that she'd fight this all the way. I just looked at her and said nothing. I knew she was trying to manipulate the situation, but I also knew I had the truth on my side. I wasn't going to let her gaslight me anymore. In the days following the court appearance, things started to move quickly. The judge granted the injunction, and accounts were frozen. I also hired a forensic accountant to dig deeper into her finances. Turns out, she'd been hiding some offshore accounts, and there was more money she hadn't disclosed. It was shocking, but also a relief. At least now I had a clearer picture of what she'd been up to. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life. I found a small apartment to move into, started working with a therapist to deal with the emotional fallout, and began planning how to protect myself legally and financially. I knew this fight wasn't over, but I also knew I'd come out of it stronger. I was tired of feeling like a victim. Now, I was taking control. The most surprising part of all this was how much clarity I gained. I saw for who she really was: selfish, manipulative, and willing to betray everything for her own gain. It was a brutal lesson, but one I needed. I learned that trust is fragile, and that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest. I also learned that fighting for what's right is worth it, even when it feels like the world is collapsing around you. In the end, I realized I couldn't change what she did, but I could control how I responded. I chose to focus on myself, on healing, and on protecting my future. I'm still dealing with the emotional scars, but I'm moving forward. I hope sharing this might help someone else who's going through something similar. Trust is precious and betrayal cuts deep, but you have to remember you're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone, no matter how close, take away your dignity or your future. Fight for what's yours and never settle for less than the truth. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me. It's like I've been through a war and I'm still picking up the pieces. The betrayal was a blow I never saw coming, and honestly, I don't think I ever will completely get over it. But amidst all the pain and anger, I learned some hard truths about trust, resilience, and what really matters. The court proceedings finally wrapped up a few months ago. Didn't get away with everything she wanted, and I managed to secure the house's value plus some damages for the financial loss she caused. She's now facing the reality of her choices, though she's still trying to spin her story, probably hoping I'll back down. But I've made peace with knowing I did everything I could to fight for what's right. That's what matters now. I've moved into a new place, a small but peaceful apartment that I actually enjoy. It's not much, but it's mine. I've started focusing on myself, taking care of my mental health, reconnecting with old friends, and rediscovering what I want out of life. It's not easy, and some days are still a struggle, but I'm learning to breathe again. I no longer feel trapped by the betrayal or the anger. I've come to realize that forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing what she did. It's about freeing myself from the poison of resentment. As for, I don't know where she'll end up. I hope she finds her own way, but I also know I can't control that. What I do know is that I won't let her define my future. I've learned to be more cautious, more aware, and most importantly, more honest with myself about what I deserve. Trust is fragile and it's earned slowly, something I'll never take for granted again. My biggest takeaway: never ignore the signs. Don't let someone manipulate your trust or take advantage of your kindness. When you see red flags, address them immediately. Don't wait until it's too late. And if you do find yourself betrayed, remember, you're stronger than you think. You'll survive, you'll rebuild, and eventually you'll find happiness again. I want anyone reading this to know that even in the darkest moments, there's hope. It takes time, effort, and sometimes a lot of pain, but healing is possible. Don't let betrayal define your life. Stand up, fight for what's right, and above all, never forget your worth. Life goes on and better days are ahead. Trust me, I'm living proof of that now.